What is up, Pyromaniacs? Pyrostasis here. We are back in the world of EVE Online, picking up with our Alpha 2 Omega series. It's the same day since last time. Literally just flew back here, and I wanted to show you guys, en route back to the station here, that item sold for 16 million, which is worth more than the setup, the entire inventory was initially. So because I think it said like 18 million for everything, and we had one item sell for 16. So we should be doing pretty good. We're up to 21 million ISK, which isn't too shabby. 80% of that is literally just from selling stuff, which is perfect. 13% from agents, for miscellaneous, and we're getting basically nothing from bounties. All right, so we're still running the absolute shit fit. Few things I want to do before we undock, so I can show you guys deplexing and some of the things that keep you alive while you're out here doing this. All right, so first off, you want to fix this up here. So I would recommend clicking these three dots and then come down to member list. You want to do show compact member list. That's going to reduce all this. It gets rid of all the little pretty pictures, and it lets you see kind of at a glance what you're up against. So the purples are friendlies, the orange flashies are bads, red flashies are bads, and then you've got the grays, which are neutrals. Grays, in faction warfare, you just want to consider anything that isn't purple or blue bad. The other thing that you can do if you want, you can get rid of the message portraits here if you like. You can adjust the font size if you want. There's a few other things that you can do if you so like. And I'm trying to figure out, there's one other... Yeah, there's a way to compress this if I recall, but this is the key thing here. You just want to shrink that down so that way you can kind of see a little bit easier how much is in system. So we know that we've got 4 baddies in system, and that's something that we probably want to worry about. All right, so also make sure your ship is always insured. Always do platinum. I'm at 83 days, so I'm good there. And always make sure that you rename your ship. Now, it can be anything you want. Just don't make it your name. The reason you don't want it to be your name is it's easy for them to know exactly where you are and who you are. So somebody can scan a site, they know it's you, and then, they can kind of plan accordingly. All right, so before we undock, let's do one other thing I want to show you guys. All right, so remember in the last video I did mention that we were going to do defensive plexing as opposed to offensive plexing so that we don't have to fight the NPC. Right now we're in basically garbage fit. We're almost pacifistic, and we don't want to fight either players or NPCs at this point. So we're going to be doing defensive plexing in either Hades, Fillet, and I'm screwing up these names, Anatana, whatever the fuck, Aranako, and Eugelis, Frary, or Abanal. All of these are going to be defensive plexes for us to run. So what you can do is you can click on agency, you can click on encounters, that's going to pull this up, you can click on faction warfare, and then faction warfare systems. So once again, just to go over that, it's encounters, faction warfare systems. And this is going to show you basically anything in the area. So what we want is, we're going to probably do 2 jumps, and then we're going to probably do Galente, because that's going to show us our stuff and only our stuff. And then I think you can set it up to front lines only, which should show us just Hydalis and Fillet. All right, so we're not even in space right now, and we can tell what's out here. So for Hydalis, actually this is really nice. We have a Scout 5, which is what we're going to end up running. There's medium Navy 5s. All of these 5s are what you want to do because that's going to maximize your LP. That's going to give you the most bang for your buck. Now, if we go over to Flyet or Fillet or whatever the fuck you want to call it, this is getting much more heavily plexed. So there's only a large 5. We don't really want to mess with that. So we're going to look here, and since this is deplexing, we can go all the way up to larges or opens if we want. But again, when we do that, we have to be careful because that means those things can jump in on us. So what do I mean by that? Well, for a scout right here, you only will be fighting other frigates. And since it's a Navy and not advanced, you'll only be fighting T1 frigates and I think faction frigates. If you go up to a small, now you're doing decies. If you go up to medium, now you're doing cruisers. And then once you get to large, you're doing battle cruisers. and I think I don't know about battleships, but definitely battle cruisers. So you start running into more problems, and then opens it's whatever they want to bring in. So for here, if we wanted to make the most money, the three Navy advances, or sorry, the three Navy fives are going to be the best. Now, what's the difference between a one and a five? A one means, let's say a site gives 10,000 LP and you have one person in there, that one person will earn 10,000 LP. If you have two people in it, that LP will reduce and both of them will earn less than 10,000. With five, you can have up to five people in a site and you will earn full LP. So if it's worth 10,000, you can have five people in there and all five will get 10,000. That's basically all there is to it. Advances allow you to do more advanced ships, so not just T1 variants. You can get Tech 2 variants, but there is some limits on that. It's kind of gets kind of weird, but like for instance, you can get a curse in to an advanced medium, but you can't get some of the other advanced variants. Like you can't get a Tengu into an advanced site. So it kind of depends. And then as you go up, some of the stuff can and some of the stuff can't. Like you can't get a Guardian in an advanced medium 5, which is a bummer because to me that should totally work, but it doesn't. So it's a little weird, but the key thing is if it's an advanced, you got bigger decks that are going to come in. If it's a Navy, you won't. So let's get out into space and take a quick look at what we got. All right. So here we are. We're out in space. You want to be careful. There's a dude right here. Now he's warping off, so we're okay. I'm going to go ahead and kill speed. You can do that by hitting that or control space. Control space will stop you as well. The key thing here is you want to stay within 0 range of this. So I'm going to go ahead and turn around and click back here just so we can go back. The reason I'm staying on here as opposed to going out into system is I just want to be close enough here in case we need to dock, and I don't want to have to go bother with making saves, even though that would probably be the best bet. All right, so you want to come down here and click scanners. Now, the first time you open this Probe scanner up, it's going to have this window attached to this window. And there's a little option up here that it's this button right here. You can click this to dock it and undock it. So I recommend pulling it out because you're not going to use it. Same thing for the directional scanner. It will do the same thing. So if you dock it, it's going to be here. I recommend undocking it so that it is separate. You can place it anywhere that you want. Get an overview setting. I use my Amar Guilds or Corps setting. It's called, it's their name, Task Force 641. Use the filters if they've got them so that you only select PvP. That way when you start scanning, you only scan what you're actually looking for. It's an Ibis? Are you fucking kidding me? All right, cool. So anyways, you want to get that set up, and then you want to learn a couple things about the scanner. So this is your D-scan. It's the first thing we're going to learn. When you're doing one of these sites, you're going to want to keep this at 1 AU when you're in a site, and then you can do 360, which is what I do because it's easiest, or you can do it directionality. So we're going to look. Let's see, we got a medium Navy 5 times 3. If we look up here, you can see, let me drag this over. Well, so you can see that we have this medium Navy 1 is open. Oddly enough, none of the medium 5s. So we're just going to go ahead and warp here to 70. There shouldn't be anybody in it, but we'll find out as we're going. So we're now warping to this location. You need the probe scanner up to see this list. I recommend sorting by name type so that you don't have these all mixed in and spattered. It makes it easy. And if you're talking to your friends, use the ID. So for instance, the one we're going to is CAI 566. So you say I'm going to CAI or Charlie Alpha, Indigo, or whatever the hell the military setup is. All right, so now that we're landing on gate, you can see we're within 1 AU of this, which means we're within 1 AU of that. I scan, it's empty, there's no one in here, which means I can hit this, hit accelerate, and we're gonna go through. Now again, this is a friendly site, so I don't have to worry about fighting the NPC here, which is great because my fit is absolute garbage and trash. So this is a friendly ship here. This Federation cruiser isn't gonna mess with me. Now, once you get in here, you want to keep hitting this button like literally every 5 seconds. I mean, just constantly get it. If you see something land here, then you want to click on a Celestial, preferably the one you want to go to. Then you want to click a line, and then you can literally sit here because your guy's going to hit speed. Make sure you turn off your prop mods, which is your AB or your MWD. turn those off, because if they're up, it takes you longer to get up to speed. If they're off, you don't. So once you're aligned, if you see something out there, you wait till they get on grid, you can see what they are, and if they're bad, you jump off. If they're not, you can stay. Now, let's say you're a blaster ship. Maybe you're going to pound things right off the bat. The beacon right here, which is right here, you can select it in your overview. The beacon is where anything that comes in is going to land. It's going to land right here within about 500 meters of this location. So if I'm not a blaster boat, but if I was a blaster boat, I'd want to be point blank on here so that when anything lands, I can immediately web scram, if I had to scram it out, and apply damage. So if you're a rail or a missile or something along those lines, you want to be in your optimal range. You want to be where you want to be when this comes in. And that's where kind of the strategy in faction warfare comes in. If you force people to slide into you, you can set up and be ready for them, because in this site, I know exactly what can come in and what can't. So I know you can't bring your battle cruiser buddies, you can't bring your battleship buddies. The worst thing I'm going to see in here is a cruiser. Nothing bigger than a cruiser is going to be coming in here. Not only that, but before they can come and join, they're going to have to land outside, so I'm going to be able to see them coming in, and I'm going to be able to decide at any point in time, okay, this might be bad, maybe we want to disengage. So it gives you not only that, but you can fight bigger numbers because they're having to trickle in, and if you do DPS fast enough, you can take on, maybe 2 extra numbers or 1.5 times your numbers, because they're not going to be able to get inside and start applying damage while your team's going to be right here doing what they do, pounding away, killing people. So keep that in mind when you're making decisions. It's a lot easier to defend a site than it is to have to jump into a site, because especially if everybody's kitey. In these smaller sites like scouts and smalls, you get a lot of kitey ships, a lot of slicers, Fed Navy comments, vigil fleet issues, things like that. Those things can burn away really quick. They're pulling 3, 4, 5,000 M3. You're going to have a hard time catching them, and you're going to have a hard time catching them when you're point blank. But if you come in and they're 10, 15, 20, meters off of you, 20,000, you're just doomed before you even get in. They're going to long point you and just take their time picking you apart a little bit at a time, even if their DPS is awful. So keep that in mind when you're punching in on somebody. Make sure that you know what you're getting into and that you want to do it. So that's how the directional scanner works. That's how the probe scanner works. That's how you track what's going on. We went over the agency so you know where to find stuff. The other thing that we can talk about is how these sites actually work. So since this is a friendly site and we're deplexing, this rat here is a Galente rat. If we were in a Caldari site, it would be a Caldari rat. Caldari rat would be engaging us. For the most part, you don't have a problem with them. As a frigate here, and a garbage frigate, I would be running into troubles fighting this if it was Caldari. It's going to be ripping me to pieces. But if you're in an appropriate ship, for the most part, they're not really a threat unless there's a problem with your fit or whatever. So, if you're in a frigate and you're in a scout site, if, somebody jumps in, you might even be able to ignore the rat and fight that person. Unless it's a really close fight, you can almost ignore the rat. But for deplexing, this gives you an option to come in where you can literally come in here naked. I don't recommend it, but you can come in here with a ship that, like I have, is not ready to fight. I sit here for 15 minutes, and then I'm going to earn probably somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 5,000 LP. Well, I don't know what the numbers are on Galente's side yet, because I'll have to do the math, which I'll cover in a future video. But usually you make somewhere in the neighborhood of 600 to 1,000 LP or ISK per LP. So, for instance, let's say we got 5K from this. Do they still have a calculator in this? I think they do. Utilities. Yes, they do. Make sure you keep hitting that scan button, by the way. All right, so let's say we get 5,000 LP for this, and let's say we'll go 700. That's kind of on the low end. We're going to make 3.5 million ISK just for sitting here. Now, remember how earlier I told you that, people fight in here all the time? If, like right now there's a Mead Navy 1 open, and I need to cover this too. If I go to that and nobody's there, maybe somebody killed, because there's a lot of neutrals. Remember I showed you guys that? There's a lot of neutrals in here, a lot of the grays. those neutrals frequently are pirates. They're not here. They can't do the sites. They're not here to actually do faction warfare. They're here to do you guys who are doing faction warfare. That's what they're here for. So keep that in mind. You can float into a site and there can be a shit ton of wrecks, which, as you guys just saw a few minutes ago, totally worth it if you're brand new. Totally worth it. Now, our initial objective here is not to, I mean, this is not how we're going to make our big bucks because, again, you know, like I said, we're making almost nothing figuratively. You know, if we were to do these sites and make roughly 3.5 million a piece, you know, take 2 billion, divide it by 3.5 million, that's going to take a while. You know, that's somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 sites. Not quite, it's about 800 sites at 15 minutes a piece. That kind of burns, that sucks, that's not going to be a good way to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with these deplexing sites. We're going to gear up, you know, get probably 4 or 5 of our ships, get to the point where we're comfortable in it, and then we're going to start O-plexing. And when you O-plex, you get a significantly larger amount of LP. So instead of making 4,000 or 5,000 LP, you can make 20 to 50,000 LP per site. And when you're doing 50,000 LP per site, you do 10 sites, it's 500,000, and your numbers go up dramatically. You're now making 12 to 40 million per site, and at that point, at 50 million a pop, it doesn't take long to get up in the billion range. So we're going to make sure that we're going to clean up all of the stuff that we see on fleets. We may even try and get into logistics where we do like remote reps on people, do sensor damps on people, do ECM and stuff like that, E-War. All of that can help a fleet, even though our damage doesn't do great right now. That will all set it up to where we can assist a bigger fleet. And then we just quietly clean the, you know, the drippings that they leave on the floor, and we're going to do really, really well. It doesn't take, you know, too many of those nice big mods to, I mean, you guys saw, I just found one mod that was sold for 18 million. You do that 5 times, you just made 100 million. You're 10% of the way to a billion. You only have to do that twice. That's one mod. One fucking mod. So definitely scrape the battlefield clean at this point. Now, one other thing I did want to point out is right now you can see that there are some sites up here, but there's a lot of sites here that are not up here. What we call that is these sites are open. And what that means is like this Galente Medium Navy 1 right here, that's 41 AUs. It's probably this one right here, BFV. That means somebody is either in it right now or was in it and then got driven off or killed or something, or maybe they just left it for whatever reason. So if you come in here and you look, you can see like, all right, somebody's in the Scout, somebody's in the Small, somebody's in the Mid Navy 1, somebody else is in the Mid Navy 5. You can kind of ignore the rest of the sites if you're hunting somebody. It also gives you an idea to know what else might be there. So, you know if there's a Mead 5 here, there's no Mead 5 here, nobody is currently in or has been in that site. So kind of like what we did here with the Medium 5, we jumped in here first because nobody else was here, and that lets us get in safe, get our money, and get the hell out. Now here in a few, we're probably off camera, I will go to these sites and just see if there's anything in there. If there is, I can scoop it, maybe get a little bit of loot. If anybody kills these, don't kill them if they're friendly because it will hurt your faction. But if somebody else wants to kill it, you can loot the tags. And then if you're in an offensive plex, you definitely want to loot the tags. They're not a lot of money. Usually the larges are probably worth about $1 million a tag. But while you're in a site, these guys can respawn 10 times. You get 10 tags for 900,000, and now you're making 9 million, 10 million. It depends on how much you can sell them for. So definitely worth it to pick up. Like I said, just clean the battlefield. You know, you don't have to sell it all, but you can sell the stuff that's worth it. And it will definitely help, especially if you place sell orders, it will definitely help. Let's check up on our sell orders and see while we're waiting how we've done. We go to the market orders. We've done pretty well. Almost everything that we had sold, for the most part, we listed, has sold. We're down to 4 items left, or 4 listings left. And they may take a little bit. Well, the ballistic control should go pretty quick. The Scourge Rage Rockets, maybe. This one, that may never sell, but the Stasis Web 2 should sell as well. So I have a feeling in another video or so that'll all clear off and we'll have another 3 million in our bag. That at the moment's put us up at 10 million, so not too shabby. So again, a lot of you guys may be pointing out, and I haven't seen this yet because I've pre-recorded 3 videos all at once, but you're like, well, you're not fighting, man. You're in faction warfare. Maybe you should be fighting. Well, definitely should be fighting if you want to. You don't have to. Right now, I don't know the guys here yet. I'm going to have to get to know these dudes and spend some time with them and, learn where they are and learn what types of comps they run and et cetera, et cetera. But I definitely recommend, if your corp is running a fleet, to get in there with them. Because if I'm running with 3 or 4 more people and we're O-plexing, I can kind of hide behind them. Yeah, I can run a tackle, so I can keep things on the field and help out. I don't necessarily have to do damage to assist, and you'll make more money. The problem with that type of stuff, though, is you need to have at least a bankroll to take 2 or 3 deaths, because you can die quickly. If you play in a group, and as long as you guys pick your fights and your FC or whoever's running the group knows what they're doing, the chances of you dying are pretty minimal. I mean, you guys have seen, I'm in a system with 34 people, and we've been able to come out here and run this without any interference. And as long as I keep an eye in here, I'm not going to die. Another sale. We're not going to have any problems with death. And as long as you scan the sites before you go to sites that aren't in the overview, et cetera, you can do this completely safely for the most part. Nothing in EVE is completely safe. When you start running offensive plexing and you run in a fleet of people are taking fights, you run the risk of dying. And you definitely should do that, but don't do it with your first ship. Get yourself, another Scout Navy 5, that'll be nice. Get yourself, 20, 30 million in the bank so that you can replace whatever ship you're flying in. Try and keep it under 10 million. That way you have 3 or 4 ships in, stockpile, and then go have fun, go learn, go die. You're going to learn a lot getting your ass kicked at first. You're going to learn, okay, this ship can fight this ship. My coercer is going to be able to drop that, that condor before he can get off the button. That vigil fleet's going to kite me and kill me if I'm in this rig. You'll learn those. Unfortunately, it's going to cost you some deaths to kind of get that knowledge, but you will learn. Ask questions. Hopefully you find a corp that's decent size, they have some experience, and just running around playing with them, seeing what fights they take, what fights they don't take, your own fights that you take. And every once in a while it's okay to take a fight that you're going to lose, because you might learn something. You might have some fun. Some of the best fun I've had in EVE is when we're yeeting ships into the void, fighting people we know are going to kill us, but we at least get to bloody their nose before we go. And once you have a nest egg of ISK and losing a ship isn't a big deal, that stuff kind of comes on the table. But initially, these first, I would say 10 15 hours of EVE, you've got to be careful, because you can very quickly overextend yourself, and then you're back in your Velator and having to run level 1 missions for 200,000 or 300,000 to get started again. So just be careful. I would recommend deplexing at first until you get comfortable with the D-scan, figuring out how that works, comfortable with the overview and the probe scanner, so you know how to read stuff. If you're going to come into faction warfare, make sure you find an overview. I think most corps have one. I just used my old corps. I will see if they're okay with me sharing it. If they are, I'll make a channel and then I'll leave it open and you can just come in. But the thing about this one is, like, friendlies will not show up in this, only hostiles. You can only see drones, etc., etc. You can this will only be friendlies. This is only loot containers. It allows you to very quickly flip through, and then you can come down here and make sure that you only have PvP. So you only see enemy ships here, as opposed to, a bunch of garbage floating in space. It makes it very easy to do that, and you'll be able to quickly tell, friend from foe. So in about 14 seconds, we're going to get our first payout. Hopefully it's at least 10,000 LP, but it may not, maybe 5,000. It's been a while since I've deplexed in, let's see, 11,000, 11,000 LP. Okay, so if you're curious, click the Z, your bank, and then you can click on corporations, and it will show you up here how much you've got. So we make an 11,322. So again, let's just pull that up real fast. Calculator, 11, 322 times, we'll put it at 700, which is pretty low. We just made 7 million just sitting here. All right, so I'm curious about some of these because these have been up for a bit. So we're gonna go check the Scout Navy 5. So we're gonna go ahead and warp to it at 70. Don't warp at 0 ever. Warping at 0, you have a tendency to land on the gate. You can bounce off the gate, and then bad things can happen. You can't get off grid fast enough because your ship's bouncing off of it. You can't align, and then it gives the enemy precious time. So you can see we're at 6 AU. I'm going to wait till we're under at 1. I can see there is nothing here. So there is nothing at the Scout Navy 5. We know there's no bad guys, but since it was on the overview, somebody's been in there. So we might get lucky. We might get some yummy shit in here. Oh, also, make sure you pay attention to your air up here. I haven't shown you guys that. There's a lot of unclaimed ISK I've got just from doing these sites. Okay, is there any... There's some containers. There's some containers. What do we got? What do we got? So, okay, this is a... So some of these wrecks, this right here is a actual shipwreck. This one right here is a shipwreck. This is... I think this is 3 shipwrecks. I think. Maybe I'm misreading that. Okay, never mind. That's the corporation who killed it, not... So, there was somebody was in here killing the rats. That's interesting. Yeah, these are all Federation frigates. Never mind, I just misread it. So, these are all the rats. Sadly, it's not anything good. I mean, it's still worth looting, but this is going to be pretty low end here as far as loot goes. But I guess it's better than nothing. And you never know. You might find somebody who will pay a decent amount for it. Okay, so that was the Scout Navy 5. I think a Small Advanced 5 was the other one. Let's go ahead and warp here real quick. And we're just going to check it out. Now, you got to be careful with the advances. The reason you got to be careful with the advances is they have the ability to let, tier 2 ships in, and some of those have cloaking devices. And so you think you're sliding into an empty site, so we're at 1000k, you can see nothing's in here. Okay. What the hell? These people just punching in and then taking off? Maybe we'll get lucky and there'll be baddies here. Well, not baddies, but the corpses of baddies. We'll jump in and see. Come on, Loot Fairy. Be good to us. Nope. Nothing. Oh well. Is what it is. There was a chance. Didn't hurt us to try. So anyways, that's basically deplexing in a nutshell. It's pretty safe. You don't have to even fire your guns. You're going to make a decent amount of ISK to get started. Do spend some time with this air program up here. It's a lot of ISK, and it's pretty easy. It's things like, killing NPCs with a... Whoop, Daddy, let's get off grid. So here we go. You see that guy? Daddy? Federation Navy comment. So we're aligned. We're at speed. Our prop mod's off. So if he comes in on us... There he is, and we're gone. Bye. See you, buddy. And he never has a chance to attack us. We're just gone. We're denying him content. Now, if we wanted to fight that fight, and we weren't in a piece of shit, and we had a chance of fighting him, that would have been a great time to fight him, because he's landing on us. We then scram him, web him, and we have a chance to blast his ass. Unfortunately, keep in mind, a lot of times these guys are not alone, so you may have what you think is a solid one-on-one where you're beating the hell out of the guy, and then his 15 friends show up. Is that the right station? I don't know if this is the... I think it is. So make sure that you're careful with that, because like I said, you think you're taking a fight and then you're taking a really big fight. So keep that in mind. That being said, that's a good little setup for us. I believe this is the home system for... Is it? Let's see. Is it FSM? Let me look it up real quick. Federal Defense Union. Okay, so show info. Where is this station? So we've got one in Fillet. We've got one in Valor, one in Castlemont, Stowe, Oval. Doesn't look like we've got one here, unless I just rolled past it. So we will probably hang out and fill it, because I think fill it is one jump away. So I'll show you guys this in the future. The way these basically work is you'll have an LP cost here, and you can sort by the biggest or the smallest. Usually, you know, the baseline stuff's going to run you about 10. Well, no, some of them are pretty small. Like some of these things are really small, but you can buy ammo and all sorts of stuff with this stuff. But we'll go over that once I've done some more research on that, and I have some items that I think might sell well, at least on the Galente side. Each side's money and faction is going to be different. But that's it for this video. Like I said, if you want to join us in faction warfare, try it out yourself, but not hurt your standings, or maybe just do it on an alt for shits and giggles, there's a link in the video description below. That will give you 1,000,000 skill points to get you started, shave a month off of your training time. It helps you, helps me. If not, do it on your main so that you're helping your main out. That's another option. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section. I do read all my comments and would love to hear from you guys. Hit that like button if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys in the next clip.